Absolutely.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question. What was that feeling, man? Because there's a lot of young cats out here that think the street life is all that. I remember everybody seen it when you was walking the court when you was a young cat. You going in there, you and Suge and them. What was that feeling, man? Could you describe that feeling to these young cats? It wasn't.
It wasn't nice. It wasn't.
We talking about murder was a case.
When you fighting for your life, when you fighting a murder case, and you in the judicial system, first of all, the system designed to beat you anyway. So if you go in there, with a 187, most likely you're gonna lose. So my heart was beating every day. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to carry myself. I didn't know how to act because I wasn't ever in a position like that. Normally, when I went to court, I would just take the deal. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have money for a lawyer. I didn't have.
Yeah, that was me. I was dead.
Right. So nigga didn't have none of that. So this is the first time I ever had a lawyer. I ever had somebody speak for me to where I couldn't say nothing. I couldn't do nothing. I had to let the lawyer speak and just sit in court and just be on my best behavior. But at the same time, it was shit happening outside of court that was still going down. That was, prohibiting me from moving. I had to be on house arrest. Couldn't move certain ways, couldn't do certain things, but it taught me discipline. You know what I'm saying? In a real crazy way, it taught me discipline because...
So that was Snoop on a recent episode of $1 Million Worth of Game, chopping it with Wallo and Gillie, talking about that murder case. Caught it back in '93 at the age of 21. And listen, man, Snoop has had an insane career. Everybody knows who Snoop is. You don't even got to be a hip-hop fan. Snoop's done it all. He's worked with Martha Stewart. He's done a lot in hip-hop. But it all almost never happened because Snoop, this murder case was not looking good. Things were looking bad for Snoop.
We, the jury, in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brothers, not guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
I'm curious, what was going through your mind at the time that the jury was reading the verdict?
I left it in God's hand, Abby. That's why I looked so stone-faced. I didn't have no expressions, you know what I'm saying? It was all inner. I prayed on it. My family prayed on it. David Kenner, you know what I'm saying, put on the bomb case. Donna Ray, Marsha Morrissey, Paul Palladino, the whole dream team. They did what they were supposed to do when they gave the baton to the jury, and I couldn't do nothing but just bank on them and worry about what the outcome was going to be as far as to just sit there and hold my position and keep my head up high and just, wait for the outcome.
Right.
That legal dream team really got the job done. For real. Like I said, this case wasn't looking good for Snoop. And you heard all them names Snoop was rattling off, all those attorneys that he had. But who put it all together was Johnny Cochran. You know what I mean? This was after OJ, you know what I mean? And Johnny was that dude when it came to court. Because like I said, man, this case wasn't looking good. Think about this. Think about this case that Johnny Cochran, this team he put together in this case that they beat. Because I'm going to give you the short version of it, you know what I mean? And what the prosecutors would have came to court with. And that was, Snoop came outside the crib and some guy from a rival gang, allegedly threw up some gang signs at him, had some things to say to Snoop. Snoop runs into that same guy later with his driver at a park, confronts him, both sides fire some shots, and, someone's dead. They flee the scene. Snoop and his bodyguard are wanted. They end up turning themselves in later down the road. But basically what I'm saying here is the prosecutor is coming to court and saying, listen, this guy is a known gang member. He talks about it in his music. He talks about violence in his music. This is back in the 90s, man. You know what I mean? He talks about it in his music, and more or less, they're like, hey, some guy was set tripping on him, and Snoop pulled up on him. That was the picture that was being painted. But like I said, the legal team got it done. And that's something else that Snoop spoke about when he was kicking it with Wallo and Gillie about how that all came together.
The mogul that y'all seen, behind the scenes, we seen that mogul. We seen him, giving us information, direction, coaching us. Like even when it came to my murder case, if it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would have did. Because he was professional enough to know that you need a lawyer. We got to get a defense team. We got to do this. Don't say a word.
How much does your lawyer cost?
Man, we spent about $10 million on that case.
Damn. Just to get you out. He spent $10 million cash.
At least, because the case went on for 3 years.
And y'all had the best lawyer you could get.
We had David Kenner, and then he brought in Johnny Cochran, and then he brought in Donald Ray, and then they brought in another attorney. It was like I had like 5 or 6 attorneys on it. They had a detective, a pathologist, the DNA, the video, like every level of the game. It was like this was the first time that video reenactments was introduced in court. So we had to reenact what had actually happened through a video that my attorney was willing to found a way to put together. So it was like a reenactment, like you see now when you watch those shows, the first 48 and all that shit. You see them we was the first ones to do that in court, and that shit was because the money we were spending, and this lawyer was so sharp. He was like, I gotta let people see, because the way they see you as just a gangbanger that did a drive-by. So we gotta show them exactly what happened.
So you hear it, man. Suge spent 10 M's on that defense, that dream team. And you heard what Snoop was talking about. Kind of like what I was just saying a minute ago. The attorney was like, listen, you look like a gangbanger that did a drive-by, that pulled up on a rival set and killed someone. We got to change this narrative, paint this picture, and brought, at the time, groundbreaking technology to court. And it was all thanks to Suge, I guess, right? Like, what do you guys think? Get in the comments. I mean, I know Snoop was making a lot of money for that death row empire, but Suge did, held them down. We see a lot of artists getting jerked for their money. Like, what do you guys think? If it was a Cash Money artist, would Birdman come out of pocket like that and make sure everything was correct for his artist when it came to court? You guys let me know. It's kind of crazy and ironic, though, when you think about it, right? That at the beginning of this iconic run that Snoop Dogg had, he caught this body. He beat this case. Suge Knight went through trials and tribulations his whole career, really, right? After the death row heyday, we know he went away and did some time. Shortly, right after Pac was killed, he came back and went in on violations a couple times, but you know where he is right now and why, that hit and run. And it's just kind of crazy to think, I don't know what kind of bank Suge had when it came to an attorney. I mean, we know his attorney was kind of trying to go the extra mile in a way. He had attorneys getting arrested for witness tampering and catching cases and all kinds of stuff. But it's just kind of crazy to look at, Suge standing tall for Snoop, making sure his situation was good so he could beat that murder. And then the way Suge went out, collapsing in court, being rolled into court, tied to wheelchairs, attorneys arrested and everything. And at the end of the day, he ended up taking a deal and he's locked up and's got a lot of time left. But I mean, Suge's done a lot of BS over the years, had a lot of, rough tactics, I guess we could say. But one thing you could say is he's not selfish. He was doing it all for the death row brand, because if he was really that selfish, he would have been stingy when it came time to look out for Snoop in court. Something else that's a little crazy, though, that I want to talk about before I close this thing out is this trial wrapped up in 96, not guilty. Snoop was arrested many other times over the years. Later in 96, after the guilty verdict, a gun case, he ended up getting a fine and some probation. In 2006, a plane at an airport, this was kind of crazy to me. They found a police baton in his luggage and charged him for this. Like, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to me, man. But he ended up getting probation for this also, and community service. Another time in 2006, a gun, weed charge. On these other situations, too, there was some, weed involved and everything. And he got more probation in this situation. And it's just kind of crazy when you think about that. All these different times Snoop Dogg has gotten probation over the years. How did this man get away with smoking weed? Like, was there even medical marijuana at that time? Like, I don't know. Was he sneaking piss in all the time? Like, it's kind of crazy to think about how he got away with all that, right? But speaking of piss test, Snoop Dogg also, based on the situations he's had in America, has had a lot of problems getting into a lot of foreign countries where he was denied entry, had a little run-in with some law enforcement in some foreign countries. But Snoop had to go take a piss test in Sweden and almost ended up kind of like, remember when ASAP Rocky had that whole situation out there and they wouldn't let him go? You know how Sweden gets down? Snoop got pulled over, went in Sweden for basically nothing. And they said, hey, man, we think you're high because you want to hear some crazy shit. In Sweden, you don't have to have drugs on you. If you're high, it's a crime. So they ended up snatching him up, him and his team, took him to the station and made him take a piss test. Ain't that crazy?
We getting sweated by the police right now, cuz. I don't know what country we in, but they sweating us right now for nothing. This motherfucker right here sweating me for nothing. Hold on. They just checking us for nothing.
What do we have?
For what?
What do we have?
Oh, motherfuckers got me in the back of a police car right now in Sweden, cuz. Pulled a nigga over for nothing. Taking us to the station where I gotta go to pee in the cup for nothing. I ain't did nothing. All I did was came to this country and did a concert, and now I gotta go to the police station for nothing. On my way to the police station in Sweden. Sorry about that, all the fans in Sweden. I'll never be back in this country. Y'all can thank y'all police chief and all the people that run y'all police department. It's been real, thank you, but I'm gone. In the police station doing a report on me, cuz. Racial profile came and snatched me out of my car. Brought me down here. I'm in Sweden right now. It's all good, dog. Sorry about that, peoples. I'll never be back to y'all country. It's been real. What up, though? This Snoop Dogg. I know a lot of y'all concerned about me. I made it through. They took me down there, made me pee in the cup, didn't find shit, no case, no nothing. But, like Minister Farrakhan say, it's better to be searched and not found with nothing than not to be searched at all. Fuck y'all.
But you see, Snoop ended up being good. He ended up getting home. Never to want to go back to Sweden again. Him and ASAP Rocky both. They should do a collab together and talk about it or something. But what ended up happening is the drug test did come up, positive. But once again, he got an attorney in there who argued, well, Snoop just got into the country. How can you prove that that was in his system from the time he was in Sweden? Because that's your guy's law, not everywhere else. That whole situation's crazy. But that's all I got on this one, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this. It almost all could have never happened for Snoop Dogg, man. And like I said, isn't it so ironic? Suge helped Snoop, make sure that this career could carry on. And then now Suge sitting in prison himself. That's all I got, though. New viewers out there, make sure to sub to the channel. It's J Coffee Talk. We blog in sports, music, news, life, current events, and more, and I'm gone.